Well, happy Thursday night. It's an off day for the Falmouth Commodores after just playing Game 21 of the 2025 Cape Cod Baseball League season, but it's not actually necessarily an off day. The Commodores hosting a coaches meet and greet featuring 2013 World Series champion Jared Saltzlemakia, now first-year Commodores field manager. It means we're at St. Barnabas Church off 91 Main Street right here in Falmouth. We appreciate you tuning in on Cape League TV and YouTube. Make sure you make your way down here to St. Barnabas Church, though at some point between 5:30 and 7:30 we'll be here alongside Andrew Della, Piana. I'm Ryan Martin. Exciting day, Andrew. Excited to be here. We'll have features of the presentations, talk to a couple important people as well.
Yeah, first off, I want to make a thank you, if you will, to the amazing staff here at Falmouth for putting on this tremendous event. Kathy Ingersoll, kind of the head honcho of this entire event going on, and to do so here at St. Barnabas, a massive thank you to them as well. This should be a lot of fun for the next 2 hours, Ryan.
Should be super fun, a good time here. It's all made possible as well by the good people at the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod sponsoring today's event. Good amount of cooperative Cape Cod people in attendance. So we'll be with you for about the next 15 minutes. And then presentations again from the coaches. A couple people from the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod will speak as well. Just a fun day. You look around, there's going to be a little bit of everything here today.
Yeah, I'm just glad the rain held off for a little bit. We are inside, which is nice, so we will not be getting wet. There was rain scattered throughout the day. You know, we hope it's going to stay off just a little bit, and hopefully it did, and hopefully the sun comes out in just a little bit.
Even with the conditions, still on tap for a great 2 hours and change here from St. Barnabas Church at 91 Main Street. Was the host site of the Strawberry Festival earlier this year. A good time, says our producer Dan Papillo and public address announcer William Rosen. They were here. They seem to really like those strawberry shortcakes that they had here. The kitchen is here with their food services. No strawberry today, though.
There was no strawberries. I've always been confused about the idea of strawberry picking. I don't know how you feel about it. Before we get into the baseball, I want to talk over some important conversations.
Yes.
With strawberry picking, it's one of those events that kind of confuses me a little bit because you are paying in order to do the job that someone at the farm would do, correct?
Yep. It's true.
And I've always been confused by that phenomenon. Just kind of wanted to get that out and kind of nice way to start the broadcast.
Glad we have that here. Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest days on the Falmouth community schedule.
Absolutely.
You think about the Falmouth Road Race that'll happen at the end of August, but that Strawberry Festival right here from St. Barnabas, a highlight of the summer. Maybe this could be right in there with that company for this Meet the Coaches event tonight. But I think strawberry picking, again, just like we talked about earlier, what was your favorite kind of cider? I think, well, there's nothing besides apple cider.
I think
when you think
of
picking fruits, I'm thinking of apple picking.
Ciders, isn't there?
Well, I think strawberry picking is interesting. What's interesting, too, is the seasonalness of strawberries. Obviously, right? So being usually a summertime staple, you don't get the cool fall breeze that you get when you're apple picking locally.
What is the best fruit to pick?
Apples. Gotta be
apples. Apples? I don't know.
Do you have a different favorite fruit to pick?
I like the strawberries. I did it with.
You just said you didn't understand.
Yeah, but if I go with my mom, once in a while throughout the year, that's a fun event that we get to go together.
I think by far apple picking.
I mean, your back hurts at the end of it because you're bending down to grab them most of the time, but it's still fun. Most of them are ripe. I don't have to do any of the hard work. I just go out there and pick it, and it makes my mom happy at the end of the day.
First of all, that's the most important thing. For me, what makes my mom happy is my birthday right around September, which to me, I know you're an August birthday too, and during the fall, to me that screams Saturday afternoons out apple picking.
Yeah,
it's a nice cool
it's
weather.
A great
it's not
fall
as hot
activity.
As strawberry.
Yeah, you're diving right into the fall season.
And then strawberry shortcakes are great, but when you talk about homemade desserts, give me apple pie over strawberry shortcake.
All right, we can talk about fruit a little bit later. Let's get into baseball. That's why we're here right now.
Sure. So again, this is Meet the Coaches at St. Barnabas Church off 91 Main Street in Falmouth. We're just getting started here at St. Barnabas. We'll be here until about 7:30, and so will 2013 World Series champion Jared Saltzlemakia. He'll be taking pictures, signing autographs, a really exciting initiative as we open the door to a new era with the Commodores.
And I think, too, the big hire of Saltzlemakia was important for this franchise as well. You get someone in that is, again, we're trying to change the narrative, if you will, with the Commodores. And still looking for that first championship since 1980. It's been a long time here, especially trying to get over the hump of missing the postseason as well. Commodores sit in second place right now. You look at that 10-10-1 record, and you don't say, oh, that could be a playoff team of your 500. The West has been a little bit of a weaker division so far this season, so I mean, losing that heartbreaker last night to Hyannis to lose that top spot, it was a frustrating loss last night, if you will.
No, it certainly was against what was looking like a really good Hyannis team, again, top in the West Division. It was just the top of the ninth that really mess things up for the Commodores. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the season. Again, no notes, no prep, just two guys talking around Commodores baseball. Feel free to tweet us as well using the hashtag #DoorsMeetTheCoaches. That's hashtag #DoorsMeetTheCoaches on Twitter or Instagram. We'll get to some of your feedback and comments. Nothing just off the riff, but look at the Commodores so far this season. Back to 500, 10-1 through 21 games. Roller coaster to say the least for Falmouth.
I honestly think as we kind of take a whole big step back of what we've seen from this season so far, if you told me this team was going to be 10-1 by this point in the season, I would have thought you were crazy, just because of the struggles early on and really especially the hitting. I remember we had those first conversations with hitting coach Jack O'Reilly about this team trying to finally get off the hump of getting in a base runner in from second and third base, and it was a real struggle in the first 3 or 4 games or so. But I really think the turning point offensively was that Orleans game. You put on 15 runs on the board. You set the tone in that one by scoring 6 runs in the first 3 innings. You really never looked away, and it was a lot of offensive firepower, especially even a 9-run inning as well, and what turned out to be a big victory in that ball game.
Yeah, I think when you look at a smaller sample size of this year and last year, 2024, a clear disappointment for Falmouth, one of just 2 teams in the league to miss the playoffs along with the Brewster Whitecaps. And if you look at that sample size, the 40 games last year, now 21 today, through the 60 games and change, I don't think you've seen the Commodores team playing as hot as they did previously this last week. Again, winners of 8 of 11 games before that loss last night to Hyannis. It's a team that's a bit streaky, but when that offense is clicking, we were talking about it before, it sometimes feels like the pitching staff and the offense are having competition to see who can be better than the other. They rarely click at the same time, but that did equal a good amount of wins to begin July for Falmouth.
Absolutely does. They are playing still some of their best baseball right now. That's no knock onto that. I think an important piece that you just brought up, though, is the fact that when you look at the face of last year's team and what that was supposed to be, there was no time in the season where you were confident that team was going to make a playoff push. It was really hard out from the get-go. You start out 2-8. You're already putting yourself in a hole in what was a really talented West Division. Hyannis is always going to be there. Bourne is going to be. And it's kind of a toss-up usually for that 3 and 4 spot when you look at Katuitt as well and even throw Wareham in the mix as well. And again, like there was no point in the season where you could confidently say Falmouth was in a playoff spot. This time around, you're looking at a team that could potentially win the division, host a playoff series, and have a home game here at Gov Fuller Field.
That would be quite something after missing the playoffs. Now, under first-year field manager Jared Saltamakia, be a good way to start his Commodores tenure. Once again, we're at St. Barnabas Church from 5:30 to 7:30 right here at 91 Main Street in Falmouth for Meet the Coaches Night. It's an opportunity to meet first-year Commodores field manager and 2013 World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox, Jared Saltamakia. He's got a good staff around him as well. You mentioned Jack O'Reilly, who's here as well. You see him at third base. You see Quinn Stromberg at first base, who's here as well. Bo McMillan, assistant coach. Todd Carroll, pitching coach with Saltamakia, obviously the head field manager. A lot of good names here. It's exciting to meet Saltamakia, but all the staff that he's assembled, all first-year guys at the Commodores.
I think an important piece, too, is hopefully we talk to Todd Carroll a little bit later. He's been an interesting guy to figure out. We've seen his mantras all throughout the ballpark. Of my favorite piece of memorabilia that he wears is that sweatshirt that says 0-0 count and win the strike zone. That's kind of been the motto of the Falmouth Commodores this season. They got the most strikeouts right now as a staff at the moment, and I think Todd Carroll has played an important part of that. This guy just wrapped up his 13th season with MIT as their pitching coach, and I think the one word we consistently go back to whenever he comes out for a mound visit, and those guys are really, really struggling. Even a guy like TJ Coates, we saw yesterday, really pick things up and needed that bounce back inning back in the 5th, is confidence. We always go back to Todd Carroll with confidence. He's not someone who really seems to ream guys out. Would be honest with them, tell it how it is, but just kind of a nice sigh of relief, if you will, for these pitchers, whether that's starters or relievers coming out of the bullpen.
I go back to what we saw from the Arizona State lefty Easton Barrett at Harwich. He had a really tough outing. The Mariners scored 3 runs in the bottom of the first inning at White House Field. All of a sudden, Carroll comes out again. When you see Todd Carroll come out of the dugout, you know your day's not over. You have a chance to make right on your mistakes. Saltamakia comes out, he might be taking that ball from you. But when Carroll comes out, it's just instilling confidence. We saw that with Coates last night in the loss against Hyannis, and then for Barrett as part of that 10-inning win for Falmouth over Harwich. And just a guy who can instill confidence. I think that's what you see out of this whole staff as well. You talk about Jack O'Reilly from a hitting perspective of understanding, hey, guys, we're not going to bat 300 in the first week of the season. It's not what you do when you make the adjustment to wooden bats, and all of a sudden it's starting to pay off again by being just atop the division right now.
And his story is interesting, too. He's a Villanova guy that spent the first half of the season with the MLB Draft League. So how it works in that, and you were at that event at Citi Field where the MLB Draft League goes, first half of the season, that's all summer collegiate players, similar to the Cape League, not with wooden bats, though. They stick with aluminum. Second half of the year after the draft, that goes into amateur ball, and he was there for that second half, playing professional baseball with the Trenton Thunder. It's funny that Rintaro Sasaki, Katuitz's guy, he was also there in the first half of the season. It turned out to be one of the bigger names there in that league. But for Jack O'Reilly, very important instilling confidence in this guy of someone who has made that transition and has had to do so rather quickly. He was pretty solid at Villanova, made a couple of Big East teams in his time there. Then he has to make the transition over to the wooden bats in that back half of the draft league. He hits over 260. Numbers won't jump off the page, but Saltomaki sees something in him that he can bring over the Cape for summer, and I really think it's paid good dividends.
It certainly has. This Commodores offense just keeps on hitting, especially some of those struggles that we talked about during the first 4 or 5 games of the season, where Falmouth struggled as a team. Runners in scoring position has gone up. 2-out hitting has increased. It's things that make a good baseball team a good baseball team. As again, we're at Meet the Coaches event at St. Barnabas Church. You can come join us at 91 Main Street right in downtown Falmouth. It's a lot going on in Falmouth. Again, mid-July, but you'll see us right next to Barnabas with the big white tent. In about 3 minutes and change, you will hear from everyone. Presentations will begin. I have the schedule in front of us at 5:45. You'll switch cameras, get to hear from Coach Saltomaki and everyone from 5:45 to 6. And the coaches are going to do a little photo op, take photos, autographs, get to know, again, the new faces of the Commodores. We'll do a couple interviews. You'll get to hear from a couple different perspectives within the Commodores organization before at 7 p.m. we toss it over to Michael Kasperian, who's with the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. Again, we can't thank them enough for their support and sponsorship of this event to make it all possible. Fun way to spend an off day, to say the least.
And we should also point out all the fun activities that are going around us as well that you cannot see from behind the camera. You got Smitty's Ice Cream here, an absolute staple on the Cape. We've been there a couple of times. Favorite flavor?
Couples pushing it.
Yeah.
Couples.
They have this chocolate banana Oreo ice cream I tried one time. That is phenomenal. Yeah. I've never seen that anywhere else. I saw that on the menu. I said, I'm on Cape Cod for a summer. Why not give it a try? Did so. It was pretty good.
It's great. That's a great flavor. If you can get to Smitty's before they run out of chocolate banana Oreo.
Yeah.
I have our producer, Dan Papillo, and public address announcer, William Rosen, behind the camera. They both know what needs to get represented when you talk about the best Smitty's ice cream flavors. It's their black raspberry chocolate chip froyo is one of the best flavors
black
I have
raspberry chocolate chip.
Believe it.
That is a interesting combination.
Black
of
raspberry
flavors.
chocolate chip work together too. So raspberry chocolate chip is tremendous. They do an ice cream flavor. They do a froyo flavor. I'd recommend both. Smitty's, again, a great ice cream spot.
Yep.
It's one of those spots where you hear so much about it, and there's so many different great things to try.
Yeah.
But you go for the first time and you have your flavor immediately.
That's
how it is. That's
how our experience was. I know you were down here last summer, so that I'm assuming that kind of felt the same for you as well.
It certainly is. Whether it's Jim's Clam Shack with their fried clams or
great
black raspberry chocolate chip froyo at Smitty's. Come on.
Next time we go there, I'll try that out. It's frozen yogurt too.
You mean later tonight?
Later tonight. We will go later.
That's what that means.
Frozen yogurt. Okay.
Frozen yogurt.
Interesting.
So there's a little less guilt. Yeah, exact best taste.
What do you mean less guilt in froyo? You get the same amount of guilt from ice cream?
It's different. Froyo a little bit healthier.
You think I'm worried about healthy? I'm 20 years old. I'm
well
ahead of schedule. I'm doing fine.
Whatever it is, it's delicious. Again, just a couple more moments until we get the presentation started here at St. Barnabas Church, talking about the festivities going on, kids' games. You can learn about the clinics at the Commodores host, a big booth set up for the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod sponsoring today's event. Yeah, you'd be hard-pressed not to get the smell from the kitchen, who's catering this event, as well as Smitty's Ice Cream.
Yeah, what did you have a little bit earlier? What was that?
So I had a traditional hot dog.
Okay.
Very good hot dog in a buttered and grilled New England roll. We had this debate the other day.
This is a stupid
New England
debate.
roll. That was very good. I'll say, too, though, William Rosen, our public address announcer, again, he's the foodie in this group of interns this year.
I've never seen a guy eat more sushi.
Well, today he
in
had
a span of a week than that guy. It's very impressive.
Today he had his first stuffed quahog, courtesy of the kitchen. You can find it. I believe that will be on the Falmouth Commodores socials pretty soon. Working with our social media team, social media leader Ashley Matter.
Looked good.
It did look good. It was a great review, and it was a good quahog too.
Yeah, it looked good.
So
It's a great town in Rhode Island named after a Family Guy there in Quahog, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is
I don't
it?
think that's named after that.
I don't think
That's
that's
a
right. Again, just about to get going. Presentation is going to be here from St. Barnabas Church. It's the first annual Meet the Coaches event here with first-year Commodores field manager Jared Saltzamakia. We're going to step aside. When we come back, it's the presentation portion of tonight's evening and festivities. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to St. Barnabas Church here on 91st Main Street in Falmouth, Massachusetts, here for the Commodores Meet the Coaches event. Now joined by a very, very, very special guest. It's our rep reporter and our roommate, Noah Nuss Bus Bomb.
Yep.
Do you like the nickname there? Does it work?
Yeah, I think it works. I mean, it rhymes.
It
but-
does. It rhymes very well. Yes. So Nuss is our beat reporter, sports editor at the Daily Orange back at Syracuse University. You can go check out his work at FalmouthCommodores.com. He'll have recaps, articles, player profiles, just about anything you can imagine that on website. We were talking general stuff. Kind of your thoughts so far on the overall season, my friend.
Well, I mean, it's definitely better than last year. I mean, if you look at it, they were 16, 23, and 1 last year, and they've already got 10 wins this year. And I think what I've seen so far is the offense has been very good, as you guys have both been talking about in the broadcast. But pitching needs to improve a little bit. But, you know, as the season goes on, it'll all get better.
No, of course, we're at Meet the Coaches event here at St. Barnabas Church. So I want to talk about your writing and one of your best feature stories so far, one of the first ones. Talk to us a little bit about Jared Saltalamacchia getting immersed with his Commodores team. You had some early conversations with Saltalamacchia for a profile on him right when the season was just getting started. What was his inclusion and entrance to the Commodores like?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I mean, I talked about his previous coaching background. You know, he coaches down in Florida for high school baseball, and obviously he was with Bourne for 3 years. We've talked about that when they played Bourne. But, you know, this was his real kind of first big major coaching role since, you know, he played in the major leagues. But kind of just dove into that and how this is kind of his new role and what he was going to do going into the season.
Personality-wise and leadership-wise from Saltalamacchia, what did you take away from those conversations of noticing now that he's the guy in Falmouth?
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to him, you know, he's definitely a very good guy, definitely very personable. He's always, you know, after losses, after wins, whenever I talk to him, he's always been very, you know, up front, giving all the, you know, nitty-gritty details of what happened in the game. You know, he's not going to kind of hold back. Very straightforward about, you know, what happened in that game. And before the season, he was kind of the same way, saying, you know, I want to go in and I want to win, but obviously I want to be about player development and I want to just give these guys chances to show themselves.
Sure. And I think too that's an important conversation about us, you know, being journalists as well and having Saltalamacchia in that background where he's been there before in Major League Baseball. He's been through the wins and losses. And him being up front with us, I think, too, has been very important. He's not going to give you, you know, he just didn't drive runners in and, you know, he just threw too many balls and we walked too many guys. Like, he's flat out honest about that, and I think we appreciate that as well. And he's been very upfront about what needs to be better about this team and also how he handles different situations.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of days, I know I talked to him yesterday after the game. He told me, you know, the offense has been doing its job, but, you know, you can't try and score 8-9 runs every game. Obviously, I've said before, the pitching is kind of, you know, the main issue so far. And he went into that last night, said, you know, they just got to attack the hitters more, and, you know, that will lead to success. But he's been upfront about that every time I've talked to him.
And thus, you've talked to players more than anybody with this Commodores team. Again, it's exciting for them. You think about their perspective to be coached by a 12-year Major League Baseball veteran. What were some of those initial reactions that you heard from players when they knew that they'd come to Falmouth and learning under Saltalamacchia?
Yeah, I mean, literally every person I've talked to has been like, this is a Major League veteran. Like, not every team. There's a couple teams, but not every team has a coach that's played in the MLB, had that experience. I think it was Bear Harrison. I talked to some of his coaches for a feature that's coming up soon. But
That's called a tease in the business, my friend. Utilize it to your advantage. Go ahead.
But I talked to him a little bit. I talked to his coaches, and they said, you know, he didn't know that Salty was going to be his coach when he signed up. But once he figured that out, you know, he was really excited. Obviously, he's a catcher. Salty was a catcher, so everybody's kind of just been really excited from what I've heard. Some people knew, some people didn't, but, you know, definitely a good thing for all of them.
So some of those early players and signees were just coming to Falmouth thinking, hey, I get to be on one of the 10 Cape Cod Baseball League teams. Now they get to be on one of just, I believe, 2, 3 teams coached by a former Major League veteran. You think of Dennis Cook and Chatham as well. That's very exciting, too. Saltalamacchia, obviously a 2013 World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox. That's something that excites Andrew and I. Maybe not you as a Yankees fan, unfortunately.
Yeah, he wouldn't be happy with that.
No, but it's been great to have Saltalamacchia around. It sounds like, again, you talk to players, you talk to Saltalamacchia. It's a much more cohesive group now under Saltalamacchia. 21 games in, these guys just love playing under him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody I've heard has been, they went in thinking obviously he's going to be a good coach, and every time I've talked to them, they've said the same thing. I've asked them a couple times, what was Salty's message kind of after the game, after a loss, sometimes after a win. It's just always been kind of keep pushing. That was even after a loss, that wasn't great, but we're going to kind of keep going through the season.
Last one we got for you, Noah. You wrote a feature about Justin Osterhaus and his story. We didn't get to have you on the broadcast after that one was published, but one of the more interesting stories, I think, for a guy that's now taking his talents out to Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I basically wrote about his last year has been really, really crazy. I mean, you guys have talked about it on the broadcast. He played in the Home Run Derby X back in Fort Wayne last summer. Obviously, he had his big game against Wright State, which everybody talks about. Kind of told me about his reaction to that. And then the big one has been, obviously, Purdue-Fort Wayne shutting down its baseball program and then transferring to Alabama. Kind of just talked to him about that, talked to a bunch of other coaches that he's, been coached by, his dad, people he's played with, and just he took me through everything that's been going on that crazy year, and that's basically what I wrote about.
Super excited to have you on, Noah. Talk a little bit about your work so far with the Commodores through 21 games. If fans are interested, and I'm sure they are, in finding your content, where can they find you?
Yeah, so FalmouthCommodores.com/news. I have all my content under there, and then if you want to follow me on X, it's at NoahNuss99.
It's a good follow. It's a good follow. Follow this guy. It's
yes,
a fun one.
At NoahNuss99.
NoahNuss99, a place to check out for all of your Commodores information. Noah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
All right, coming up, we'll have presentations, Jared Saltamacchia, as we get things underway from St. Barnabas Church. Stay with us.
Great. Are we going to have people up here? Or?
We got all these chairs.
Oh, as they come up and they can sit. No, I can call them up.
Whatever.
You want me to
This is
restart?
your show.
Okay, we'll make it go. That's good. We're casual. It's casual. I know. I'm good, though. I have my shirt on, so it's wonderful. All right, so I think we got everybody, and that's wonderful. So hello and welcome. Thanks for coming out on this not-so-great night, but it's a great night because we're here together, and the weather's kind of holding off, and it's wonderful. I'm Michael Kasparian. I'm the Executive Director of the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. Big fans of the Falmouth Commodores and the Cape League, and we're really glad that everybody is here. So we're here, of course, to have a nice program, make some introductions and hear from some people. Jared Saltalamacchia is here, our new field manager, and he'll be coming up. Assistant coach Bo McMillan. Yay! Falmouth Commodores president Bob Curtis. He's here somewhere. And president and CEO of the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, Lisa Oliver, big supporter of the team. Wonderful. So first of all, can you folks in the back hear me okay? You guys are good? We got a thumbs up? All right. So first and foremost, I want to introduce the chair of the Falmouth Select Board, Bob Mascali, who's going to come up and make a presentation to Bob Curtis and Coach Salty with a proclamation officially designating this day as Falmouth Commodores Day. So, Bob, Coach Salty, join me on stage.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael, and welcome everyone. It's, as Michael said, not the weather we hoped for, but you're all good in spirit and come out whether it's bad weather or not. So, as Michael said, I'm the chair of the Select Board, and the other night we passed a proclamation, which I'm going to read. Whereas the Falmouth Commodores were founded in 1923 in the Cape Cod League when there were only 4 teams. 102 years later, the Cape Cod League is known as the premier collegiate summer league with now 10 teams. And whereas the Falmouth Commodores' mission is to help young men and young women fulfill their dreams, and whereas the Falmouth Commodores are supported by numerous volunteers, local sponsorships to provide a showcase for our players and interns. The Commodores also run youth clinics, provide scholarships to Falmouth High School students, and provide outreach at community events. And whereas the Falmouth Commodores have a new head field manager, Gerard Saltamacchia, previously an assistant coach with the Bourne Braves and professionally with the Boston Red Sox, as we all know. Jared replaces Jeff Trundy, a legendary and beloved field manager and a Cape Cod League Hall of Famer. And whereas volunteers, field staff, and interns want to invite you to attend and watch the Falmouth Commodores at Gov. Fuller Field, now therefore we, Robert P. Mascali, Heather M.H. Goldstone, Douglas C. Brown, Colin W. Reed, and Jack P. Richardson, members of the Falmouth Select Board, do hereby proclaim today, July 10th, 2025, to be Falmouth Commodores Day in the town of Falmouth, and urge all citizens to observe the day with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. We have hereunto set our hand and caused the Great Seal of the town of Falmouth to be affixed on this 30th day of June, 2025. Welcome. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. All right.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you so much, Bob. I know Bob's going to run to another event, always busy being on the Select Board. So much going on here in Falmouth. So most of you know that the Falmouth Commodores is a nonprofit organization that really runs based on donations from the community and other organizations. Without the generosity of those who support the team could not continue. Bring on this great talent, employ all these interns, and do so much, for our community. One of those organizations that is a staunch supporter is the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod. And it's my pleasure to introduce the President and CEO, Lisa Oliver, who's going to come up and speak to you.
Thanks, Michael. And hi, everybody. I will talk over the generator and stay close to the mic. I've been told that before. No. Got it. Thank you. And hopefully you'll all be able to hear me. So I'm thrilled to be here with my bank team. We have a booth over there. They're all sitting over here. And it's really a fun night for us to be involved with something that is so Cape Cod. And I know tonight is not about me, but I can't resist enthralling you, hopefully, with a story from my past that deals with baseball. I was a competitive tennis player. I can get a ball far distance if I have a racket to go with it. But I had the opportunity when I lived in Cleveland for 15 years. My bank was the main sponsor for the Cleveland Indians, now the Guardians, and with that came the opportunity to entertain clients, do different things on the field, and have an opportunity to throw in a first pitch, which I had the opportunity to do. And I realized very quickly that I'd rather speak in front of a crowd of thousands than try to throw a ball. Here's the image. Okay, so 2 sons who said to me, "Mom, don't embarrass the family." There's no more pressure than that. And being a busy mom, a banker, and trying to get ready for this, I didn't have time to practice. I didn't know how far the throw needed to be. And my husband, who's here with me, Richard, got out with me the weekend before. I said, I really probably should try this before I get out there. And let me tell you, it's a long way from the pitcher's mound to home plate. And the boys chirping in my ear, you have to stand on the mound. You can't stand in front of the mound. You're going to embarrass us. So I threw. And then me and Bengay hung out for the next 3 days as my arm was trying to recover from throwing. And I got to the game, and they talk about adrenaline. And adrenaline kicks in. I get announced. We go to the mound. There's a lot of people in a Major League Baseball stadium. And I walked up to the mound, and I stood there. Adrenaline kicked in. I threw this ball hard. It kind of went, the catcher ran in a little bit for me, jumped because it was like a Bull Durham moment. It was headed for the mascot, and he grabbed it. And needless to say, I did it, and it was a lot of fun, but that's my memory, and my hat's off to every player, every coach who puts baseball in their lives, who has baseball in their lives, and puts the effort in to engage, to practice, to be great at what they do, and have the passion to continue to do it through their careers. And so the group that's here tonight is all about that, is bringing on the future generations, sharing their knowledge, sharing their wisdom, and hopefully not being afraid to embarrass themselves like I am when I tell stories about my past. So we're thrilled as a bank to be here. Cape Cod is the Cape Cod Baseball League. This is what summer is about, at the root of who we are, how we enjoy a rainy day, a sunny day, and to be so close to this community. The Falmouth Commodores are right at the heart of what happens here in Falmouth, and we couldn't be more proud to be part of it. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you, Michael, and the team for having me up here to speak on behalf of our team who's here. We'll be around the rest of the night to say hi and be a fan like the rest of you. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Michael. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. So with the passing of the beloved coach, Jeff Trundy, after 26 years, it's a new era for the Commodores. I'd like to invite Bob Curtis, president, to come up and talk about the opportunities, the vision, and what he sees for the future of the Commodores.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. We're delighted to have you. So we've kind of packaged the team this year as entering a new era, because we really are. And Jeff, was a friend and has been involved with the team for 26 years, unfortunately passed away this last year. But he is a legend. But we were very fortunate to be able to recruit in our current field manager, Jared Saltalamacchia. And he's leading the team, and we've got a lot of new people involved, a lot of new volunteers, new coaches, and we're very excited about probably one of the best teams in the Cape Cod Baseball League, not just in baseball, but in terms of the organization. The volunteers, we have 75, 80 volunteers that help make this happen. And I'm very proud to be involved with this organization. But coming up, next week, we are going to have a tribute to Jeff Trundy on July 15th. We'll be presenting a bronze plaque to one of his former very good friends and general manager, Chuck Sturdivant. On the 22nd of July, we're having what the Cape Cod historian for the Cape League calls the Mount Rushmore of Boston's sports writers. Bob Ryan, Peter Gammons, Leo Montville, and Don Shaughnessy will be here on the 22nd to throw out the first pitch, probably give a few autographs if you're interested. But that's never been done before on the Cape, to have these collection of writers together. Thank you. Anyway, so we're halfway through the season. We played 20 games. We got 20 to go. We're in pretty good position. We were tied for first. We're like 1.5 out. One out. Half out. Half out. Yeah. And so but we're having a great season, and we've got some great players. And again, the fans have been tremendous. If you've been to the game this year, we've got a lot of people showing up. I invite you to come and enjoy the game. And if you ever see me there, and I'm wearing this hat because this kind of identifies me. Otherwise, and so I can be easily picked out. But thank you all for coming. And I do want to mention a couple of things that I'm going to get. I can see somebody staring at me that I have to. Is one of the things that I mentioned, the volunteers, and we're always looking for volunteers, but we're also looking for host families and that house these kids. And personally, I have 4 kids at my house right now. And I was showing Lisa Oliver my phone last night, and it opened up, and it had the flyer for Market Basket, because I go shopping all the time for food. And, and it's fun. They're great to have in the house, and we're always looking for host families and volunteers. So I wanted to put a plug in for that. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and I hope you enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much, Bob. So now it's going to be time to meet the new coaching staff. We're going to start, obviously, with Coach Saltalamacchia, very nicely known as Coach Salty, which is good because he has the longest name in the MLB history. Coach Salty is a former MLB player, 2013 Red Sox World Series champion, and previously coached the Bourne Braves and currently coaches high school teams in Florida. He's assembled a great staff who collectively have decades of experience at college and the high school level, and I'd like to ask Coach Salty to come on up and introduce his staff and address you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, I don't know if this is tall enough. I might have to pull it out. All right. So, coaches, if you don't mind coming up here. Bo McMillan's my bench coach. Anthony DeFabia is one of our pitching coaches. Quinn Stromberg and Jack O'Reilly. And then my right-hand man that I can't do anything do without is Charlie, my daughter, Saltalamacchia. Come on. So, just real quick, what Bob said is right. Nothing could be done without the help of these guys right here. Bob's help, our new GM who's on the training, but he's doing a phenomenal job, Paul Aries. I'm calling him in the middle of the night, hey, we've got to get another player in tomorrow. Can you call housing and make sure we got a bed for him? There's always moving parts out here. It's just part of the game. And Paul's done a phenomenal job. But the interns, they're always smiling. They're always in a good mood, which makes it easier on us. And they're helping our coaches out at the camps. Nick's been great for helping Paul out, and he's obviously been helping me out with the catchers and doing a lot of work. But, the host families, without host families, we wouldn't be able to be in a situation we're in right now where we can, be almost in first place, but, climbing our way up, hopefully going to win another championship. But, I'm just so thankful and blessed for the opportunity, and I can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you very much. So Bob spoke briefly about the record, pretty impressive record halfway through. You guys are poised to go pretty far. So any comments, Coach Salty, Coach Bo, on strategy and how the next second half of the season is going to look and what your predictions may be?
Predictions. If we stay healthy, if we stay together, we got a real special group here. I think they really enjoy being with each other. Coming to the field, we're there all day together. So if we can stay healthy, keep people here, I think we can make a deep run and do something special for Falmouth.
So this group of kids, when you're recruiting, you don't really get an opportunity to meet the kids and talk to them and kind of see how their personalities are. So, you have a lot of trust in the coaches and the agents and the different people you go through to get the players. But this group of players, having been here, this is my 4th year, has come together better than any group I've ever had. Pitchers are always been known to be a bunch of idiots. No offense. So they're always very, very quick and easy to get along. There's no problem there whatsoever. But the position players usually take some time, because they're all trying to showcase themselves for the draft. And, there's always that sense of competition. But not with this group. This group from day one is kind of bought in. We're at a point now where these guys are almost getting a chance to play every single day. And after 50-something games during the regular season, now 40, this is kind of the time where we need to step things up and take it to the next level. And I think we're prepared for that.
So when we think about the Cape Cod League and all the teams, what, in your opinion, sets Falmouth apart? In our opinion, of course, what makes Falmouth Commodores better? What's different here? What's part of the chemistry and part of the formula that these young players and interns fortunate enough to come to Falmouth, why are they so much more fortunate, we think, of course, than any of the other teams?
Well, I'll take part one, and then I'll have Anthony take part two because he played out here for a couple of years before he started coaching here. But, the difference is, the stuff that we have available to us here is a lot better than most places, and even talking to players, having a clubhouse makes things a lot easier. That's really where you kind of get your culture built, is inside the clubhouse. In Bourne, we were in the dugout, and sometimes halfway in the dugout, you're hot, you're sweaty, you smell like nobody wants to be around each other, you get irritated, so things can go sideways. But having that little escape away from the field and the fans to be able to kind of come together is huge. The city's amazing. I mean, every time I came here and my family came out, we always stayed in Falmouth. I mean, it was a no-brainer for us. So for me, that was the big difference.
Yeah, I mean, to hit off of what Salty said, having the clubhouse for the guys is awesome because it's the only place where you could really get to know the other guys, rather than being out on the field with them all the time. And the community, for sure. I mean, the fan base and the people that come and support us at the games, I think as a player when I played here, it was awesome. Like, the stands were always packed, and you always were able to have a relationship with some fans and meet new people. So I just think those two things make a great combination.
Thank you very much. So you get a lot of fans here, speaking of fans. So we're going to open it up to anybody that has questions for any of the coaches at all. And I'm not sure, are we working with 2 microphones, or is it going to be easier for me to walk out and give this microphone and then bring it back? So, okay, so who has a question? Put up your hand, and I'll bring the microphone over. You want to bring it around? Okay, and bring it back? Okay, great. Thanks so much. William's going to bring it around. Anybody out there have a question for any of the coaches? We got one right in the back there, William.
There's no walking in baseball. Come on, you got to hustle on and off the field. So I got a quick question. As you get the players that are coming up that are draft eligible and they get drafted during the season, how does that change the dynamic of the team as you're going through the season toward the championship?
Great hustle. So that is a dynamic in itself. You want the players, catch-22, you want the players to get drafted because it's obviously their dream since they were kids, but at the same time you're selfish and you want them to stay to help you win. But that being said, the culture has been built in our clubhouse right now. I mean, no matter who we bring in now, I think that they automatically buy in just because they see. We got a kid from Orleans a couple days ago, and on day one he was kind of, pushed right in. And it sounds weird, but him and one of our players were walking in a circle holding hands. So I know that sounds really funky, but if there's something we do, and it just kind of, he just bought in right away, and he's already made an impact, with the team and the coaching staff. But, we've learned as coaches, we just have to be available, and I think these kids are all wanting that. They want to be that one-on-one time or just have, a conversation that they may not get at the college that they're at. So that's kind of where we're going.
Thank you. Who's next? Get all these coaches up here. Wonderful. Here we go.
You've seen me on the sideline with the interns and all that, and I always wonder, how do you keep your team focused for a 2-hour rain delay? Because with our interns, that's one of my dirt burdens is to make sure they stay focused. I know there's some downtime, and so what is the insight?
Well, I'll argue this, but I mean, apparently, I guess it's hacky sack, throwing a football, and a frisbee. I mean, we had a rain delay the other day or a lightning delay in Harwich, and, I mean, they all had a hacky sack. We got yelled at by the commissioner because they didn't want anybody on the field during a lightning delay, which I understand, but, I mean, they're grown men. They're adults. They can do what they want, you know. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I do have a problem. I feel like if you're on a baseball field, it should be baseball specific. If you want to do hacky sack, go on the side. But it's a new age, new world, so I'm trying to evolve with them, you know. Like I said, pitchers are idiots, so let them do what they want.
You're aging yourself already, see? Oh. Okay. Got plenty of time for more questions for anyone. You're not going to get this staff here. Okay, here we go.
Coach Schulte, you talked about it a little bit. Just curious if you go a little bit deeper. Can you talk a little bit about the recruiting process, what you guys do? Are there particular schools you're targeting or particular regions? And then what in particular are you looking for, maybe aside from just stats or box scores? Can you just walk us through that process a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, a lot of the recruiting is based on relationships. You know, if you get a relationship with school, they'll help you out in the next year and the next year. And if you're in a jam, they can, you know, find a kid for you and send them. So it's all building relationship. Over in Bourne, we dealt with a lot of the East Coast teams, Vandy, North Carolina, you know, Rutgers, a lot of the schools that are all in the East there. It's obviously great to have some connections with schools that are really close. So in case we need somebody in a pinch, we can get them here that day. But realistically, I don't ever look at stats. I think stats can be skewed, especially with the aluminum bat in a college season. Numbers get built on Tuesdays and Wednesdays nights. Friday nights are, you know, the premier night. So, you know, I spend a lot of time on Synergy, which is a video system where I can watch all the guys' swings, their pitching, their fielding, and I just kind of go off a feel. Like, hey, this kid looks like he's got some athleticism and can play. You know, with our coaching staff, if he comes out and has the right mindset, you know, at the end of the day, like, hitting is 99% approach. It has nothing to do with your swing. It has nothing to do with, you know, how strong you are. It's like, hey, if you have a good approach at the plate, you're going to have success. Same thing on the mound. You know, if you throw strikes, you got a lot of good things happening for you.
Great, thank you. You know, it's interesting because here in Falmouth, those of you who live here, you know there's like 2 degrees of separation here, right? Everybody knows everybody or knows somebody that they know. And one of the things that always touched me was when Bob Curtis talked about being a host family and the young men that they've hosted over the years. Now, he's been to weddings and christenings, and it kind of feels like that's an extension of Falmouth through this organization. So are there any host families here tonight? If there are, if you could raise your hand. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you. It's amazing. Amazing. So we get a little bit of time for a couple more questions. Anybody else? Yeah, you got one? Here we go.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. You know, all of the Cape Cod Baseball League teams have the same issue with players staying at their schools to play in playoff tournaments, or teams have players that leave early because of Team USA or the draft. So how do you develop a winning team with so many players coming in and going out over the season? How can you differentiate yourself over our competitors in the league?
So that is a great question, and there's no, like, blueprint that says, hey, you know, I wish there was a Cape Cod Coaching for Idiots book, because they would be really helpful. There's no real, I mean, the way I did it, I was late to the recruiting process, so some of the guys I got were draft eligible, which scared me. But through the course of the season, come springtime, there's injuries, there's guys whose numbers don't play to what they thought, and then the coach is willing to kind of pull them and give you another guy. But I think the mix is just finding guys who are at the higher levels, the D1 levels, but aren't quite the name. And you look at their, you know, their motions and their hitting, and you say, all right, this could work out here. I do think that out here, it's, you know, runs are a premium. And I know the past week or so we've, you know, scored a bunch of runs, given up a bunch of runs, so it's tough to say that. But if you got guys that can play good defense, can run, put the ball in play, I think you're going to have a successful team. You know, your Yankees-type teams that hit 3-run homers and they're just waiting for that, I think those teams end up finishing last. So we tried to put the team together that can do all those things.
Thank you. Good time for a couple more questions. Anybody else out there? Here we go. Okay. Thank you. So you like it here. That's good to hear. We like having you here. Anybody else? Okay, here we go. One more question.
How are you? You have a lot of really young baseball players hanging around waiting for their chance to meet all of you, and I would just like to know what's the one thing that you would say to them, being so passionate, being here for you, and knowing they're out on the Little League field wanting to be you guys one day.
That's a great question. We'll just go down the line, but I want to add one thing. Charlie was a huge part of helping me recruit. I'm a father of 4 daughters, so the older 3 were more interested in how cute the guy was when we were recruiting, as opposed to actually looking at the caliber of player. So without Charlie, we wouldn't have this team. So that's for one. So my advice at such a young age is to have fun, because there's going to come a time in this game, especially it's coming more and more. Now you're seeing high school kids that are going on NIL deals and getting paid to play a game, which is silly. And I see these deals of $750 million and $250, whatever. That's ridiculous, because you're playing a game that, as a kid, you just wish that you could step on a big league field. And now you have the opportunity, and, so I think having fun is the most important thing, not taking it too seriously, just enjoy being out there, being around your friends. I promise you, if you make it about that, you're going to play a long, long time.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I'm only up here because I love it. It's my life. It's been my life for 40-plus years, and I love it. And you have to love your teammates, and you have to love the good and the bad, because in baseball there's a lot of bad. So you have to find a way to goof around and enjoy it. Be around people that you love.
Yeah, I think the passion for it and having fun is obviously the most important. To break away from that, you got to do really well in school, because you don't get to the next level if your grades aren't good. So if you want to play in college and at the next level, you got to make sure you can get into school first.
Yeah, they hit it on the head. I was going to say school. School is very important, but listen to your parents. They always want you to do the right thing, and I didn't really do that growing up, and it took me down the wrong route, and I learned the hard way, and now I'm here. So.
Feel like there's not much else to say. Everybody killed it, but just believe in yourself. The game will definitely humble you. It's a very, very difficult game, like Bo said. So have some confidence and understand that the good's coming.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, coaches. One last question? Anybody else? It's going to be the last shot. Because much to your point, there are a lot of young kids who are here that want to meet the coaches. So I'm going to just read off a list of some of the things we have going on here. So the food vendors are here. You can buy Commodores gear if you don't have any. Looks like a lot of people are pretty well stocked. You can get autographs from players and view a demo of the new state-of-the-art Rep Soda. Was that what you were talking about, Pro 2 technology used in varsity clinics? Were we talking about that earlier? We use it at the clinic. Okay. There's a demo, I guess, here people can look at. And the information tent has Commodores giveaways and information about how you can get involved. They're also selling raffle tickets. Look for the interns walking around with the signs. There are 12 opportunities to win, 2 autographed jerseys with Coach Salty's number, and 10 balls autographed by Coach Salty and Coach McMillan. So wonderful. That's a great opportunity. Jersey tickets are $10 each, and autographed balls are 3 tickets for $5. We'll draw the winner around 7 o'clock, and you have to be present to win. So stick around. And the coaches will be here until about 6:45 if you'd like to get a picture with them. So, barring any last questions, and there is one last question. Okay, here we go. Will?
This is not a question. This is an advertisement. We have a bunch of people here. We have a bunch of need for housing. You mentioned housing, how important it is. I'm here to tell you it is marvelous. We've had 7 players so far come through. We had 5 at one time. If I have to buy another damn 18 eggs, I'm going to scream. But this is an advertisement. So I really encourage you, talk to people, talk to the host families. It is a marvelous experience. It is so great that I wish we had more. So please, have a chat around. Housing is the way to go. Thank you.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add? Anybody at all? Okay, so coaches will be available. Tickets will be on sale till about 6:45. We'll see you back here around 7 o'clock. We will draw the winners. Thank you so much.
Have it back at St. Barnabas Church off 91 Main Street in Falmouth. You just heard from first-year field manager Jared Saltzamakia and a little bit of everyone, his whole coaching staff, Bo McMillan, Quinn Stromberg, so Jack O'Reilly there as well, and Anthony DeFabio. That's the whole crew. You got Todd Carroll in there as well. An exciting new era, opening the door to a new era of coaching for Meet the Coaches Night. Alongside Andrew Della, Piana, I'm Ryan Martin, again back at St. Barnabas Church, right off of Main Street in Falmouth for this great event. Andrew, a lot to take away from there. This is a coaching staff that clearly emphasizes community.
Yeah, and it kind of felt like more so like an introductory press conference to me, where you stand up there. It was also nice to get some questions from the audience and the people that are here as well, that are heavily involved in this Falmouth community, show up to games. We always appreciate that as well. But I really think the big thing that we both took away is whether that's doing so through the host families or donations of people in the town of Falmouth. It doesn't happen without those people, and I'm really glad that Jared Saltzamakia and his staff brought that up, and something too that struck a chord as well with the way Saltzamakia talked about this organization as a whole and what separates it from the other teams on Cape Cod. And I didn't even know that a lot of other teams did not have clubhouses that they spend their time in. It's mostly in the dugout and kind of around, and that's really it. So it's a nod. I didn't even know.
Shout out the Falmouth Community Recreation Center too. Our clubhouse in the basement there. That was great. I think what really struck a chord with me is we were so fortunate and blessed to be in a position to broadcast these games and be the voice of this team that we get up to Arnie Allen Press Box and we see the field and we see the fans around. You don't get a true representation of how many people that goes into this and how much of the Falmouth community cares about and works with the Commodores to become this great product and this great part of the community. Again, a big shout out to the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod for being here and sponsoring it. But whether it's host families, sponsors, or just avid fans who show up 3 to 4 times a week at Gov Fuller Field for these games, it's so much bigger than you realize when you're on the air or when you're just at one singular game. This is the Cape Cod Baseball League at its finest, and this is something Falmouth's been doing for a while as one of the 4 original teams.
And the thing, too, that's also interesting to note is none of these 10 ball clubs, including Falmouth, are for-profit. These are all non-profit organizations that run through donations and help by volunteers and different interns like you and myself. And everything that goes into making this league special starts with really the people involved, and just seeing the line of people that are even here right now to meet Saltamacchia and the rest of the coaching staff. It really starts with them. We are here for the team and to cover this team, but at the same time, we're also here to serve the community. And it's been a pleasure so far, talking around with fans around the ballpark as well, and hearing their stories of why they come down here for the summer. It's for moments in places like this that make the Cape Cod Baseball League so special here.
And we're just beyond halfway done, my friend.
Yeah.
A long way to go from Gov Fuller Field, a team that's playing well enough to be playing more than 40 games this season as well. Again, so many people to thank for this being here. President Bob Curtis, you got to hear from him a little bit, quarterbacking this whole thing, and quarterbacking this day specifically for Meet the Coaches. Kathy Ingersoll, this is her baby to set this all up. She's been fantastic. She's worked with Alan Russell, our director of broadcasting, to put together great 21 games of coverage with his experience at Falmouth Community Television just off the road on Dillingham Ave in Falmouth. So many people that have gone into this and really made this a special night. A gloomy, rainy Thursday evening has turned into a great day of Falmouth Commodores baseball, even with the Doors having an off day.
And I think to having this many people here and only the first edition of this event, I'm assuming this will be more to come in the coming years, and as more people hear about it, they will show up for an event like this, especially when the weather will be a little bit nicer as well. But to just see how many people that are here in the community to support this team, and I'm also looking around at all the young kids as well.
Yeah.
A very important point that Jared Saltamacchia and the rest of the staff made was having confidence in this game. And we hear a bunch of times about how hard this sport is and how of a mental toll it can be, and it's absolutely true. You fail 7 times in this sport and you're a Hall of Famer. And it's really tough to consistently go at this game with a good mindset every single day and have the rest of the public here, and especially these young kids, taking that message from a World Series champion was really heartwarming to see, I'd say.
It's a great moment, great conversation as well. Love the fan Q&As as well. We'll talk to some of the coaches coming up, as well as some players, other members of the Commodores organization who's made tonight in the first 21 games of the 2025 season possible. We'll step aside for a second, but be right back from St. Barnabas Church off 91 Main Street in Falmouth right after this for Meet the Coaches Night. My pleasure.
Welcome back into the church at St. Barnabas here at 91 Main Street in Falmouth, Massachusetts. Ryan Martin, and now joined by Leif Palmer. I'm Andrew Della, Piana, pitcher for the Commodores. Ryan, this is a fun event so far. Got Leif with us. Leif, I want to start about your time here in Falmouth. I know you've only been here for a couple of weeks. How it's been so far?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been a great time. I have a super nice host family, and the team's great. We have a lot of fun. Good group of guys, so it's just been great so far.
Leif, we just heard so much about host families, the importance in this league. How about a shout out to the host family? Who's your host family? Who are you living with? What that's experience been like so far?
Yeah, I'm with, their names are Steve and Pat. They're super into Falmouth. They're really involved with the Commodores, and they're super nice. They cook us dinner every night. It's great. Great hospitality from them.
What's the best meal you've had so far?
They made this chicken parm the other night.
Ooh, that's good.
It was delicious.
Are you a big Italian food guy?
I might be now.
Yeah.
We just heard from Steve as well. He was mentioning if you have to buy 18 more eggs again, he's going to go crazy. I guess that's what the house is
I
like,
do
right?
make a lot of eggs. Yeah, I make 4 eggs every morning. I'm running through them.
A whole lot of omelets or just scrambled? Yeah.
Scrambled eggs.
All right.
That works well. Joined by Leif Palmer during Meet the Coaches event here at St. Barnabas Church. Leif, again, this night introducing the new coaching staff to the community. What's been your impression so far of being coached by Jared Saltamacchia and Todd Carroll as a pitching coach?
Yeah, it's been great. It's kind of like a lot of the guys are saying it's like a minor league feel, where we get best of the best players come around from everywhere, and we all get thrown into a locker room and we just go play. And Salty and TC, they just kind of guide us. They don't give us crazy advice because they know that we're good, so they just make sure we're good mentally, and then we just go out there and play.
And there's been plenty of Oregon State guys here before. How does that kind of change your mentality going into maybe what your expectations were of the Cape Cod Baseball League coming in?
Yeah, so Gavin Turley and Travis Bazan are 2 guys that I played with, and they both played for Falmouth.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys know them pretty well.
Yeah. Heard that Travis guy was pretty good, too.
Yeah, he's all right. He's pretty good. Yeah, so obviously at Oregon State, I learned a lot from the 2 of them. Even though I'm a pitcher and they were hitters, I would face them all the time, and it was great to talk to them and hear their feedback. And I remember talking to Gavin before I came out here to Falmouth, and he said just great things, and how much fun he had out here, and it's just a great experience overall. There's the baseball, which is obviously good, but outside of that, it's also there's a lot of great stuff out here.
Whether it's through conversations with guys like Gavin or just the overall perception of the Cape Cod Baseball League, how has that initial expectation kind of been met or been different since you got here?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really know what to expect before I came out here. I'd say, it's definitely a little bit less. It's less intense than I thought it would be, but in a good way. Like I said, they kind of just let us go out there and play, which I think makes us play better. And it's fun to just be in a bullpen with a bunch of other guys who are kind of on similar levels with each other, and we all talk and we learn from each other. Like the other day, I was talking with Zach Johnston about change-up grips, stuff like that. Like I think that's part of the experience. It's huge, just learning from other people. Other pitchers that, go to different places that are across the country, and, I can talk to them and pick up a few things from them, and they can learn some stuff from me. It's all fun.
Yeah, how do you feel like you can now take that insight as you work into Cal Poly, a new school for you?
Yeah, now that I mean, it's great to have this experience, because Cal Poly, I'm not going to be playing a lot of these East Coast players. Yeah. So it's exciting. It's fun to be able to, face these guys over the summer and, kind of see how I stack up against them, and then I can take that into Cal Poly and, hope my goal is to go earn a starting spot there. And I think I'm learning a lot here that's going to help me with that.
Yeah.
So last call for raffle tickets here at St. Barnabas. A couple more questions, though, for Commodores pitcher Leif Palmer. Leif, we've talked to some players. Some knew Saltamacchia would be here when getting to Falmouth. Others were just signing up for the Cape Cod Baseball League and then had him come by. Your experience about getting into this league, what was it like, and finally becoming a Commodore after the regional?
Yeah. I got set up with Falmouth probably. I was one of the later guys. I know a lot of guys signed with them in the fall, pretty early on. I ended up signing with Falmouth in late May. And I'd heard good things about Salty. Obviously with him being an ex-big league catcher.
Oh, look who we got too. Homer's here.
Homer.
Yeah. How you doing, Homer?
What's up, Homer?
Mascot of Commodores. Go ahead, Leif. What were you?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I heard a lot of good things about Salty with him being an ex-big league catcher and world champion. That got me excited to come here because being a pitcher, it's nice to have a catcher as a head coach, and he sees a lot of things out of pitchers that sometimes that we might not even realize. And then I got in the transfer portal as well, and that kind of shook things up for me. I wasn't able to get out here as early as I thought, and Salty, before I even met him, he was giving me calls and telling me it's okay, I can get out here whenever I can, and he was even reaching out to some schools for me, which was really cool.
You're wearing the Rockies hat, Colorado native, correct?
I am.
So, growing up a baseball fan, you remember Saltamacchia from any of those Red Sox teams? Or
you don't remember the 07 World Series,
yeah,
right?
maybe.
You might have been
a
little too young
for that.
Yeah, okay.
But I do remember hearing his name and seeing him play,
yeah,
which is pretty cool. And then it's I walk into the locker room and there he is.
and working with different catchers as well kind of makes this league a little bit more unique too, with even in any summer ball you do. But how has that been working with him and trying to work with different catchers as well as you do go to a new school?
Yeah, it's cool just being around different catchers. Like Bear Harrison, he's at Texas A&M, and he catches a lot of super high-level arms. So it's cool being able to just be like, hey, like I'm going to throw a bullpen to him, and let's see what he has to say about how some of my pitches might be moving, and and it's interesting at first as a pitcher, when you're throwing to a catcher that you've never thrown to before. There's always kind of a learning curve. There's an adjustment. So that's something you have to get used to. But, all these guys are so good that, I throw 3 pitches and they're ready for it.
Yeah. Gonna say, you're going to have to get used to that. Also going to have to get used to signing some autographs, which I think is next up for you. That's Commodores pitcher Leif Palmer, the newest Cal Poly Mustang, spending some time with us during Meet the Coaches event at St. Barnabas Church. Leif, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Leif. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to St. Barnabas Church, just off 91 Main Street in Falmouth for an exciting Meet the Coaches event. It's an off day for the Commodores, but not necessarily with this great event. We're joined by one of the coaches just being introduced now. It's Quinn Stromberg. Quinn, how's it going? Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a great day. Besides the rain, obviously, it was a nice off day, and we're looking forward to getting back on track tomorrow with a win at Katuitt. So.
For sure.
And I know you're joining this coaching staff for your first year after coming over from Bourne. How's this experience been with the Commodores been so far?
It's been great. This city, this town, it's unbelievable. It's a different experience here. A lot more fan base, better fan base, I should say. But after last year, not a disappointing season for them, and taking it to them a couple times. I'm on the flip side, and it's been great. And we've taken it to Bourne twice now, and hopefully a couple more times this year.
And how's that transition too been? Already spending one season in the Cape League. What has been kind of different for you now in year 2?
A lot more leadership role that Salty's given me this time around. New guys, new faces. Obviously, is awesome for me. And he's also let me kind of take a step in my direction as I'm going to be a grad assistant starting next year, starting in the fall. And I'm kind of taking forward with the hitters and fielders, so it's kind of something new that I didn't get really experienced last year.
So you were with Coach Saltamacchia at Dorm Park with the Bourne Braves last season. He gets the job here in Falmouth. What were those early conversations like when he said, hey, let's go down the road in Cape and come to Falmouth?
That's a funny question. He actually, it was Game 3 of the championship. We had just lost to Harwich, which is unfortunate, but maybe it's leading to a championship here. Yeah. But we were at this place trading posts just down the road, and he comes up to me. He's like, hey, we'll stay in touch. I might have a little insider information, and I was like, okay, whatever you say. And a couple weeks later, he gave me a call, and I accepted it right there on the spot. Wanted to come back up here. It's been great.
Well, planting the seeds right when the 2024 season ends. He's also a good guy to have in your back corner saying we want you back.
No doubt.
So you mentioned going to be a grad assistant. Walk us through what your next steps are and what you've learned under Saltamacchia to make that possible.
So I just finished up at Auburn. I was the bullpen catcher there for 4 years, so a little bit of a different role, behind-the-scenes guy working with the pitchers. I'm heading over to Old Dominion University down in Norfolk, Virginia. That will be my next stop. It'll be a 2-year grad assistant program. I'll be taking on with the infielders and the hitters as well as working with the other coaches and just kind of learning more about baseball as it comes. And obviously learning from a big leaguer is unbelievable. You don't really experience that every day. And it's been truly a blessing, and I've learned so much stuff. And having that, like you said, in my back pocket is always a great experience to have.
Awesome. Yeah, that's phenomenal stuff. Congratulations on that. I know you had an important part there with Auburn. How has it been different, kind of being in the bullpen every day with that group as a team that made it to the College World Series back in 2022? Now working more so with the infielders this year.
It's way different.
Yeah,
it's way different. Omaha was awesome, and 4 years there was awesome. But time has come, and it's time to take that next step. And my knees are happy, my thumb's happy, and obviously my arm's happy. So that's all good. But it's a learning curve, and I'm taking under his wing every day I get, and trying to move forward and continue to get better.
What was that kind of decision that put you into coaching? Was it something you discovered at Auburn, or maybe something a little bit earlier down the line?
So my dad was always my coach growing up. That has a lot to do with it. But it was actually last year. He bullied me a little bit my first year, which you get the rookie haze, all that, and it was all well worth it. But once I kind of got to know him and see how baseball works outside of just being a bullpen catcher and getting beaten up every day, I kind of fell in love with it. And obviously, it's a sport that gives back to the kids, and I want to be a part of that. So.
You mentioned being one of the guys as a player, now leading those guys as a coach. We hear so much from the outside about how fun of this group can be and how close they are together. You don't see that all the time in summer ball with guys coming in and leaving, but we see at first base the handshakes you do with the guys. Talk about this group and what makes this team so special this summer.
We just got some great leadership, starting with Micah and Adrian Lopez. Those guys are dudes, as we like to say. Dudes is great. It means they're the guy. They can do it, and just guys look up to that. I mean, having 7 home runs or whatever Micah has now, it's unbelievable. But anyways, back to the handshakes. It started with Lopez. He wanted to do the. I can't say it on here, but there's a word that I'm not allowed to say, and I went with it, and so after that was back one of my first games, and since that, it's been like, hey, we got to do this at first, we got to do this, and I'm like, all right, I'll try to remember, and then they get to first, and my mind's not necessarily there, and I'm like, oh crap, I got to do it, so.
Do you have one with every guy?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Wow.
Who's the best guy at it? Who's your favorite guy to do the handshake with?
I mean, Adrian Lopez is
hard.
It's hard not.
The OG, right?
That's the number one. But Micah's got a good one. We do a little handshake and then the 3 sign. It's just kind of like 3 love to me and we're really close, you know, coming
Gotcha.
from Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
those are the top two I'd have to say. Ken Schmidt, I don't know if y'all ever seen that one.
Yeah, that was funny.
He always messes with me. And
The
I
chest,
always,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the chest, and I always have to go back at him because, you know, it's what we do. So, but yeah, definitely probably Adrian Lopez. Got to stay with the number one guy. So.
So, I mean, even for a summer league team, this seems like a team that's much closer than guys who are just playing each other for a couple months before going back to their schools.
No doubt. Like I compare to Auburn after being there
Yeah.
for 4 years. These guys, I feel like I'm back at Auburn. You know, just being there every day. You go in there, telling jokes, you know, telling stories, and obviously, you know, we gel together, and it helps having, like we always talk about it, a head skipper that had done it at the biggest level and let them just do their thing. So it's been great, and it's gonna hopefully we finish this thing off.
For sure. How has your dynamic kind of changed from your time at Auburn to now being involved more so on the coaching side? Because I think you've done a good job of seeing both sides of it. How have you kind of used that learning experience to now take over that in coaching?
Yeah, it helps learning from the best. Obviously, you know, every day in the SEC, it's, you know, they say it's the best conference out there, and it really is. But you know, I tried to sit in hitter meetings, pitchers meetings, any opportunity I had to kind of grow at Auburn.
Yeah.
And I kind of translated that here, where I can talk to DFAB and Bo and Jack and Salty and TC, and kind of just learn what they got, and then learn what I have, and put it together and work together. And you know, it's obviously the best way to learn. And you know, every day is an opportunity to learn. So that's why I take forward to it.
Yeah.
With Quinn Stromberg, assistant coach for the Commodores. Quinn, last one for me. You've been with some really talented pieces at Auburn, especially that catcher's room. You got Ike Irish, who could be a top 10 pick. We saw Chase Fralick already in this Cape League. How is that adjustment? Again, you mentioned SEC, best of the best. Working with those guys now at Falmouth, how has that been talent to talent?
Everyone up here is as good or better than those guys. I mean, Ike Irish is a once-in-a-generation guy. You know, he's probably going to be a top 10 pick here in the next week, Sunday?
Couple days.
Whatever,
yeah,
whatever
13th,
it is.
yeah, coming
Sunday.
up, a couple days. Yeah.
But, you know, it's just about unlocking that potential that they have. And as we've seen, Micah's really unlocked it this year or this summer. I mean, last half of the year into the summer. And hopefully he gets drafted, but I mean, for our sake, I hope he's around, and you know, he's helping us win a championship.
Could be another
here,
SEC guy.
Right. Yeah, he's going to Arkansas. I wanted him to go to Auburn, but he didn't really want to. So, but yeah, it's been great, and it kind of a respect thing. They understand that I was around and have an opportunity to say what I've learned from, you know, Ike and Chase and guys inside, you know, Auburn, and I've been lucky enough to have someone, Richard Fitz. He pitches for the Red Sox, as I know a lot of people here. So and I actually ended up catching him a couple times, learned a lot of things from him. So, like, moving forward, that knowledge.
I'll throw you one last one. Your expectations for this team the rest of the year, what makes it that this team can go and win a championship?
Just the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I love going to the park every day. I think every coach would say that. And I think we believe in these guys. They believe in us, and that's the key to success. And, you know, we're going to go out there and give 9 hard innings every time we touch the field, and you know, hopefully end up with some hardware and, you know, party downtown Falmouth.
Sounds good.
Should be exciting to see these guys for another 19-plus games. Emphasis on the plus.
Yes.
That's
No
Commodores Assistant Coach Quinn Stromberg joining us on Meet the Coaches Night from St. Barnabas Church here at 91 Main Street in Falmouth. Quinn, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Quinn. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back with our coverage of Meet the Coaches. Appreciate you.
Meet the Coach event rolls on here from St. Barnabas Church on this beautiful Thursday night, taking you up till 7:30 alongside Ryan Martin. Now joined by Commodores hitting coach Jack O'Reilly. Jack, how you doing so far?
Doing great. Yeah, it's been a great event, and I'm glad that y'all put this on.
The first season for you in Falmouth. How's been the change to collegiate baseball here on Cape Cod?
Oh, it's a completely different environment than coaching college baseball. Definitely more of a showcase environment for the players. I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it, working with such talented guys and being around a great coaching staff led by Salty.
Let's touch on your journey a little bit, too. You started the season with the Major League Baseball Draft League we were talking about earlier, correct?
I did, yep. I played there last year. I did the Trent Thunder for the end of the first half, and then I tagged on. I did the independent baseball portion of it in the second half, too, with the Thunder.
So how has that whole journey, now getting to Falmouth, gotten you here and gotten you ready to coach this team?
No, it's never thought that I would be up here doing this, I don't think. I always wanted to be a player and continue my playing career, but I had a great opportunity to start my coaching career at Villanova and then had a connection here with Salty, and just having some pro ball on my resume definitely helped. And to just, I guess they are kind of a competitor, but to be part of that, and then now this, it's been just quite the journey to this point.
And this team offensively, we hit it right off the top, has been, I'd say, pretty good the last half a month or so. What has been the change after a little bit slow out of the gates in the first couple of games?
The guys have just really made adjustments. Coming in, I know some of them hadn't seen live pitching in several weeks coming into the season. So just getting more at-bats and feeling more comfortable in the batter's box, I think that is the number one thing. Just believing in themselves and knowing they can do it, seeing some results, and then just building off of that has been the recipe.
We've seen for this Commodores team recently, hitting is contagious and making those lineup adjustments too. So you see a guy like Carl Schmidt starts the bottom lineup. Now he's been in that leadoff spot. How has, now into 21 games this season, this lineup kind of materialized where you're seeing where guys can hit the best amongst each other?
Yeah, totally. Definitely part of that transition period was us as a coaching staff feeling it out and understanding where guys fit in this whole puzzle. So just them getting more experience and more comfortable, and us the same way, I think that's how it shakes out.
I think the head honcho of that has clearly been Mike Anu. What is about that skill set has made him be so special?
He's a stud, totally. I mean, he believes in himself. He's an extremely confident individual. I think that him switching over to center field from playing shortstop in the college season has freed him up in a little bit to just be more of an athlete and let his natural athleticism come through. And I've noticed him taking just great, compact, aggressive swings in the batter's box, and the results speak for themselves, like you said.
You talked about New, guy coming from Marshall after a couple of seasons at New Orleans. You yourself, a Villanova baseball player. How does that guy, non-Power 5, coming to league like the Cape Cod Baseball League, have you seen any extra chip on his shoulder from a guy like New or any non-P4 guys with this team?
Yeah, totally. I think that, just like you said, the chip on their shoulder, the mindset, the mentality that, he belongs and he wants to prove that he belongs here. He would never say that out loud, I think. He's actually more of a quiet guy than you would think. But when he gets on the field, he just knows that he has ability and he lets that natural athleticism come out.
That's cool. Signed bats as well. I meet the coaches night, West Monroe, dropping that off. But
yeah, to kind of tie into your Villanova background a little bit and your adjustment over from playing that professional ball with Trenton, were there struggles as you kind of changed from aluminum to wood, and how have you kind of told the players about your adjustment to make that a little bit easier for them?
Yeah, the wood bat is totally the great equalizer, I think. Just because you got to square the baseball up to have success. You can't be, mishitting the barrel and expecting to drive the baseball. As much as my personal experience goes into it, I definitely went through that myself. So just being there for these guys when they're frustrated, hey, oh God, that's probably gone with metal, or that's a base hit with a metal bat. Just telling them that this is part of maturing and part of this whole process of moving forward and hopefully getting to their dream of being professional baseball players as well.
Here at Meet the Coaches Night alongside Commodores hitting coach Jack O'Reilly. Jack, one more for me. Talking about, again, your journey to this Commodores team. When you heard Saltlomakia was taking the role here and he brings you on, what were those early conversations like to get you started in your debut with the Cape Cod Baseball League coaching?
Yeah, so I had a great chance to meet up with Salty for just a coffee, kind of an impromptu, I guess you could call it, interview down in South Florida, where he's from, and I'm actually have moved down to now. I live in the Jupiter area, so was able to meet with him in person. I think that helped, able to have more of a formal conversation. and it was just finding out if I was the right fit for the job. He was looking for young guys that, want to be up here, work hard, and spend long days at the field, which is what we do. And I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity that he's given me.
Last one for me as well, Jack. How do you kind of look at this as maybe a stepping stone into coaching? How are you kind of utilizing this summer to kind of move up the ranks, if you will, for you?
Yeah, absolutely. The being in the action has certainly helped me. I actually did accept the position to become a graduate assistant at Florida State next year.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. So that's definitely part of this whole thing for young coaches, is getting their name out there and just proving that they can be valuable to the higher ups. So yeah, being in the action certainly helped me land that new job.
Awesome.
Congratulations,
Thank
a future
you.
Seminole and current Commodores hitting coach. That's Jack O'Reilly on Meet the Coaches Night at St. Barnabas Church. Jack, thanks so much for joining us and talking a little bit.
Of course.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jack.
Step aside for just a minute. Coverage continues on until 7:30 here at St. Barnabas.
Meeting the Coaches rolls on here from St. Barnabas Church. Just about 20 more minutes on our program. Ryan Martin, Andrew Della, Piana back with you now, joined by the field manager of the Falmouth Commodores, Jared Soltomachia. Coach, I'll start off with this night has meant to you so far, being here with the rest of the community.
I mean, it's great. Just, when you're a coach, you're on the field, so you don't get to get in the stands and talk to the fans really that much. So being out here with the volunteers, with the interns, and a lot of the fans, and seeing these kids out here playing, wiffle ball. You don't see that very often. You see these kids out here actually playing the game and having fun doing it, so it's a great event.
You mentioned playing for the love of the game and just having fun while you're still in a position to do so before baseball is taken seriously. How cool is it to, again, being here but in front of fans, get that fan Q&A and have a talk with them one-on-one, maybe for the first time since you took this head role?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I like to do is the Q&A stuff because, you can plan out a speech, you can talk about the things that are important, but, you don't know what's really important. So it's good to hear from the fans themselves and ask the questions. And I've had a lot of good questions, and I think tonight there were some good ones too.
Sure.
And you adjusting to your new role here as the head coach, maybe what's been the biggest thing that you've taken away from Bourne, now moving to this head coaching spot as we're over the halfway point?
I was fortunate to coach over there. Scott did a great job. His energy, his thought process isn't too different from the way I thought, so I thought we got along just great. We both have our own kind of styles in that sense of in that sense, he likes to argue with the umpires a lot. I'm less of an arguer because I was a catcher, so I knew how to get the umpires on my side. So I spent a lot of time going out and just kind of saying some certain things that the umpires, next thing you know, we're getting more calls, and calls are going our way. So I always felt like it's better to kind of get things with honey than vinegar. And, but other than that, I'm enjoying every minute of it. These kids are phenomenal. They want to be here. They want to play. We're right there. We're 10-10. You look at the 10 losses, and there's a lot of games that we could have won. One run, you know what I mean? So I think we fixed how to win the one-run games. Now we have to kind of go back and fix some of the pitching. I think that we have the arms to do it, no doubt about it. It's just throwing more strikes and kind of keeping guys off the base in damaged situations.
I love the emphasis, too, when you're on the podium, saying this is Meet the Coaches event and trying to get all your guys involved and explain to your staff. We got to hear from Bo, Jack, Quinn, Anthony. When you were assembling the staff, Todd Carroll, pitching coach, not here as well, what were some of the qualities you were looking for that this group has represented through 21 games?
Yeah, so I think it's important. Your coaching staff is more important than anything. I mean, as a head manager, you can kind of delegate a lot of things if you hire the right people. So, my focus is on getting guys that had a lot of energy. You don't want to go too young, you don't want to go too old, because you want them to fit in with the players. So Bo was obviously my first choice because he's got so much energy, the passion, the love for the game. His knowledge of the game is probably more than mine. He's been doing it a lot longer. So, and he has that college experience. So having that in the as a bench coach was important. Bringing in Anthony, he played for me, so I kind of had familiarity with him. But I know he's hungry. He wants to do this at the college level. He was doing it this year at the college level. So that experience and that hunger is important. Quinn I had last year. He's kind of like the friend of the guys. Yep. You got to have a friend. You got to have a voice that can tell me, hey, so-and-so was talking last night about how he's not feeling good or something. So, you kind of try and dive into all these different angles. And, TC was kind of a last-minute hire, but, he's got experience. He's done it. He's done it at the pro level. He's done it at the amateur level. So, that experience is very important, and he cares, and that's the most important.
And you got another nice piece on the coaching staff as well, and your daughter. What's it been like having her down here for the Cape as well?
Chuck's great. Chuck every year has been phenomenal. The school gets mad at me every year because she always misses the first week of school, because we're in the playoffs. So, she's getting to that age now where we're almost going to have to send her home, but I think we can kind of figure – she's staring at me right now. We can figure something out. She's already kind of –
Come on over here. Let's get her on.
All right, Charlie, come on.
Take my headset.
She's already trying to figure out ways to stay, and I think mom's okay with it because she's got enough on her hands back home. But so Chuck, come on, tell us about your experience out here.
How's it been so far, Charlie?
It's been amazing and great to meet all the players and stuff.
And you've been helping out in the recruiting, I've been hearing.
Yeah.
Is that true? Who was your favorite that you recruited? The guy hitting home runs, is it Micah New?
Probably Adrian Lopez.
Okay, what's about Adrian that makes him so fun to be around?
He's just really nice and his personality.
What does he make you do before every at bat?
He gives me a fist bump and stuff.
That's good stuff.
And what happened last night when you weren't there to do the fist bump?
He got a strikeout.
So promise you'll be at the rest of the games this summer?
Yeah.
All right, really appreciate that. Thanks so much, Charlie. And for you, making that adjustment too from being at the high school level to now being back here. I know you've spent some time in Bourne. What's kind of that biggest adjustment from these high school guys now up to the collegiate guys?
Well, I mean, the biggest adjustment, and it's not really adjustment for me, it's just kind of the coaching style, is the high school level. I have a lot of knowledge that I can give those guys, but their athleticism and their talent isn't quite to where those guys are at the D1 level. So I feel like, I'm not being utilized in the right way. So when I get out here, it's nice to be able to have that, that verbiage or that language with those guys that they understand right away and they can do it. Because at this level, these kids are literally one, step away from their dream of playing professional baseball. So, just being able to kind of talk to them and just understand it's more of a mental game than it is a physical game at this point. So that's just kind of the transition I have.
Yeah.
Here alongside Commodores field manager Jared Saltzamakia at Meet the Coaches Night at St. Barnabas and Main Street in Falmouth. Coach, thanks so much for joining us, and on behalf of everyone here, thanks so much for being here tonight.
I appreciate it. All these interns staring at us. Love it.
Thanks so much, Coach. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
We'll take a step away and be right back for our final thoughts here from Meet the Coaches.
One more final guest here at the inaugural edition of Meet the Coaches here from St. Barnabas Church. Andrew Della, Piana, Ryan Martin, and now joined by the first-year general manager, Paul Aries. Paul, how's the adjustment been here in year one?
It's been fantastic. I've been working with Salty pretty much on and off for several months now, and the closer we got to baseball, the better off it was. And he creates such a great atmosphere and everything, and working with him and being around the guys and being on the field is my sanctuary. It keeps me sane.
You mentioned being on the field, your happy spot. We were talking about it. We're in the booth, and you forget how many people goes into Cape Cod League baseball within this Falmouth community. Being here tonight at St. Barnabas Church, hearing from the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod and all the fans in attendance, what does an event like this mean to remember how many people love Commodores baseball?
Well, being a part of the community is such a big piece of what we do with the Commodores. We depend on the community. We depend on the host families. We depend on the volunteers. We depend on the interns. And everybody has their part. We play a small part. They play a huge part, because without the housing and without the volunteers, we can't do what we do.
And your background is in nonprofit organizations, just like the Commodores. What's it that kind of sparked your interest in now getting into baseball for a summer?
I forgot to duck. We were a host family. We got to be around the team and everything. We got to know some of the players. Some of the players we hosted last year, we still meet and talk to their families.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, okay, let's do. And then Bob Curtis said, hey, Paul, can I have coffee with you after the season? And I was like, okay. And I walked out the door, and I said to my wife, I'm like, watch, she's going to ask me to be the general manager. But no, the community, Falmouth, is just such a wonderful place. Being on the Cape, I've been coming to the Cape since I was like 5 years old. My family always vacationed down here. Didn't spend a whole lot of time in this area, but to be part of the Commodore family and the Falmouth community is it's really special.
Here at Meet the Coaches event with Commodores General Manager Paul Aries. Paul, in terms of this year's team, we were talking with Quinn and Coach Saltzamakia about what makes this team so special and so close. And Saltzamakia is saying he doesn't really look at stats or box scores when he's evaluating a player. What personality-wise and character-wise about this team are the commonalities?
I definitely agree with what some of the coaches said, and what Salty says is that I'm in the locker room all the time, and we see the guys and how they interact with each other. There's no animosity. There's no clickiness or anything that goes on. All of the guys, they give each other a hard time. They're laughing. They're joking. They're on the field. They're playing hacky. They're doing everything. I loved it the other night in Harwich when they were out in the outfield, throwing a frisbee around in a lightning storm, which we did get reprimanded for that.
Oh man!
But I think it's the camaraderie of the guys that is what's leading to our success. I actually said to Steve Irish, who's one of our other board members, on the very first game, we were in Chatham. Remember Chatham? It was 49 degrees. But every time the pitcher came off the mound, all the guys were out of the dugout,
Yeah.
and they were high-fiving and everything else. And I said, I didn't see that once last year.
Yeah.
And that was when I knew we were going to have a special season.
In building this roster, what was your kind of vision of what you wanted for to kind of make your mark on year one here?
I have some relationships within here, but, coming in as a first-year GM didn't make a lot of sense to me to overrule a World Series champion. So, worked with Salty. My job is to keep the noise away from those guys, contribute where I can. Like I said, I had some relationships. We were supposed to have one guy from Missouri that was going to come in that was one of my guys, but he ended up getting hurt. But, like I said, I keep the noise away from them so they can concentrate on baseball and just do the best I can. And my assistant, Nick, and my intern team, they have a tremendous knowledge of baseball. And they would bring players to me, and I'd bring them to Salty. And a couple of them panned out, a couple of them didn't. But, we really have a great group, from all the coaches, players, to the intern team, to you guys in the broadcast, all of our interns, all of our volunteers. It's organization top to bottom.
And you've mentioned before Nick Carlson kind of being your right-hand man. What's it been like working with him so far?
I can't wait for the day where Nick is holding up a World Series trophy, and he told me I would be the first one he thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold him to that. But no, Nick is. I couldn't do what I do without him. We all work long hours, and we're there at the ballpark a lot. And it's invaluable to have somebody you can turn and say, "Hey, can you do this?" And it's going to get done. It's going to get done well, and it's going to get done on time.
Tremendous and very deserved recognition for Nick Carlson,
Absolutely.
Assistant GM of the Commodores. Paul, last one for me. Talked about working with Nick, also working with Jared Saltzlemakia. What's that relationship with Saltzlemakia been like through 21 games as you get to know each other better and as this team gets to know each other better?
The team definitely has. The team. Everybody, and we just had a new player come in tonight. He was at the event here tonight. I think you met him, and he was over talking to the guys that were signing autographs, and it's perfect. And as far as my relationship with Salty, like I said, we would talk about once a week, every few days. But in the 3 weeks leading up to the season, we were talking 5, 6, 7 times a day. You hear him mention that he's a girl dad. I'm a girl dad too. We both lived in houses that was completely female for the longest time, and doing that, it has its so every once in a while you need to commiserate a little bit. So we could relate as far as that goes.
And last one I'll have from me. I also threw this question to Quinn as well. What is about this team that can kind of push it over the edges? Commodores still look for that first championship since 1980.
I think we just need to be consistent and play clean baseball. I think fundamentally, if we can clean up a few of the things that we have maybe little lapses on, and we've noticed that we're giving up that one big inning. That we're good for 8 innings, but if we give up that one big inning, that's been our Achilles heel so far. So that's what the coaches preach. We need to play clean baseball, do your job, that kind of thing. And I think that's going to get us over the hump. I'm really excited. We got to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the playoffs, and once we get to the playoffs, all bets are off.
Sounds good.
An exciting time for Commodores baseball. That's first-year general manager Paul Ayers with the Commodores. An exciting 21 games. Should be an exciting 19-plus games with an emphasis on the plus, as we were saying, as this team looks to make a playoff run. Paul, thanks so much for joining us and helping set up today's events.
Thanks, Paul.
You bet. Thanks, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Paul.
We'll be right back from St. Barnabas Church with our closing thoughts here from Meet the Coaches.
Time winding down here on our first Meet the Coaches event from St. Barnabas Church here on 91st Main Street. Ryan Martin, Andrew Della, Piana back with you. It has been so much fun having on a bunch of guests. We just heard from our general manager, Paul Aries. And I think the biggest word we keep coming back to is that sense of community here with the Commodores, and also plenty of optimism of what this team can be in the back half of the season.
Yeah, Andrew, this is a fun team to be a part of, and this is a fun community to be involved with. We're seeing it here at St. Barnabas Church. It was a rainy, gloomy Thursday night. You didn't know if we'd have to go inside, but thankfully the rain holds off right before this one gets started, and people came out for it. And we heard what it meant to first-year field manager Jared Saltzlamakia, to Paul Aries, the general manager. I think this community, again, you bring up that word for a good reason. You've seen what it means, and it's shown again, whether it's the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod for sponsoring it, fans in attendance, interns present and making this all happen. This is all one big family here at Falmouth.
Now let's close the door, if you will, with our final words here from this Thursday night. Like I said, plenty of optimism going forward. I think the big thing that Paul just hit on, and we've kind of talked about on our telecast as well, is there was one big innings kind of really get away from the Commodores. We saw it last night, tied 5-5. You go into the ninth against Hyannis. That one, you lose that one. You also think about the second meeting between those two teams. Harborhawks score 5 times with 2 outs. It really comes down to if you clean up that little area to limit damage. And we heard from Jack O'Reilly as well. The hitting has been there, and it's really picked up to give this team a chance offensively.
Yeah, it certainly has. I think that hitting has been the biggest difference maker for this Commodores team. We mentioned it feels like times the pitching's there, the hitting's there, trying to have a battle to see who can be the face of this team. And then as of recently, I think you look at a loss last night, just like they had to Hyannis. Both maybe have gone out the window a little bit.
Yeah.
Small sample size, and I think with Falmouth turning it around, you'll be at Lowell Park tomorrow to face the Katuitt Kettleers for the 3rd time this season. Should be an exciting game. That All-Star break is going to be here before we know it. Next weekend, that one will get started. So some deserved Commodores will get recognition, and I think they're going to have a second to make more of an impact here with this stretch.
And I think, too, with the offense really finding its form, they're the only team in the league right now that averages over 5 runs per game. That pitching on the back half, though, ERA-wise, for the Commodores. That'll wrap up shop here on this inaugural Meet the Coaches event. Tons of thank yous to hand out, starting off with Kathy Ingersoll. This was her baby event, and we had so much fun doing this event here at St. Barnabas Church. Also, thanks to our massive sponsor in the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod for putting this on, and this was ton of fun, my friend.
This was a ton of fun. We mentioned hoping that this becomes an inaugural event because this is a great way. You heard, when's the last time you got to talk to a World Series champion, do a Q&A with fans in attendance? Every Commodores fan who was here got to ask Saltzlamakia a question about his MLB career, transitioning to now being the head man in Falmouth. A great event here, and we appreciate St. Barnabas for hosting.
Also, thank you to our Director of Broadcasting, Alan Russell, as well, for helping us out all throughout this summer. As well as we start to wrap up shop just a little bit, we'll talk about what we'll expect on Friday. Tomorrow, we will both be in Katuitt on the call for that game. Meeting number 3 between the Kettleers and the Commodores is, again, Falmouth trying to find that right footing going the second half of the season.
Yeah, the Kets and the Doors split that home-and-home series on July 4th. It was Katuitt walking off Falmouth with a Jared Advincula RBI single at Lowell Park, and then Falmouth pulls off a 3-1 win. That was a great game. These two teams, this is classic Cape League baseball. They haven't combined for more than 5 runs in a game yet. We'll see if Lowell Park is more of the same, but 2 rivals of the Cape Cod Baseball League should be a great time to start off some weekend action, my friend.
Yeah, Commodore sitting second place right now in the West Division, just 2 points out of first place against the Hyannis Harborhawks. Can they change that in the second half of the season? All you have to do is stay tuned and wait. We'll be on the air tomorrow at 4:40 before tomorrow's 5 o'clock start against the Kettleers. Ryan and I will have the call, but for one final time here from St. Barnabas Church on Meet the Coaches, we say thank you.